Hello everyone, it is damage testing time again. It's been a little while, and today we are checking out shotguns after their tweaks to their rates of fire, specifically threat level, Ikelos, and Acarius, but I threw in all of the different types to see what's going on and to see if anything has changed dramatically. We'll probably go back and test out Thunderlord in another video. There are 4 different archetypes of shotguns plus 3 exotics. We have Aggressive, 55 RPM, Precision, 65 RPM, Lightweight, 80 RPM, and the Rapid Fire type, now 140 RPM, down from 200. The others were all buffed by 10 RPM. Acarius is now 55 RPM, up from 45, Chaperone is still 70, and Tractor is still 80, but we won't be testing Tractor Cannon in this video. Our hypothesis is that while lower rate of fire shotguns deal more damage on a per shot basis, the higher rate of fire shotguns will have a greater damage per second or damage over a certain duration longer than one shot. Important to know that for basically all shotguns except for the Chaperone, that their crit multiplier is 2.2 in PvE. A shotgun shot consists of 12 pellets per shot. All tests were performed on Kalli in Last Wish, with weapons being 650 plus unless otherwise mentioned. As usual, these DPS calculations use real numbers, but simulated accuracy and rates of fire, where you are perfectly aiming and timing everything, which is generally not possible to do, which is why I give a range of values. During these tests, I had 2 Transcendent Blessing mods in my armor, so my damage is going to be a bit higher than normal. The mods don't change the results of the tests, and I'll be honest, I don't want to do all this over again, but I did want to disclose that. So, we'll start with an aggressive shotgun, Mindbender's Ambition. This is a 55 RPM shotgun. A full 12 pellet non-crit shot on Kalli hits for about 28,000 damage. A full crit, where every pellet is a crit, hits for 61,695 damage. This gives us a DPS range of 25 to 56,000, assuming we're firing non-stop as fast as possible. Let's move to precision shotguns. I have a Dust Rock Blues and a Retold Tale. Dusk Rock deals 26,616 damage on a full non-crit, 58,510 on a full crit, for a DPS range of just shy of 29,000 to 63,000 and change. Retold Tale is approximately the same, but because it's in the energy slot, suffers a 5% overall drop in damage per shot, giving us a DPS range of about 27.5 to just over 60,000 DPS. Our hypothesis is holding pretty steady. The lightweight shotgun Parcel of Stardust is where I was most impressed with these tests, a shotgun that I had previously paid no attention to. At 25,572 damage per shot on Kalli non-crit, we're only about 1,000 damage less than a Dust Rock Blue shot, but at 15 RPM faster. A full crit nets us a shot of 56,217 damage, just 2,000 shy of Dust Rock. Our DPS skyrockets though, from 34 to 75,000 DPS. That's 5,000 higher on the non-crit and over 10 on the crit side. But perhaps unsurprisingly, the rapid fire shotguns hold strong despite their huge RPM nerf. Threat level hits for a tame 17,448 damage per shot, but the difference is that it can fire twice in the same time that Dust Rock can fire once. This gives it a possibility of over 40,000 DPS just from non-crit damage. When we go to crits, 38,338 per shot gives us a potential of 89,455 DPS. Important to note that this doesn't even include Trench Barrel, although it has been tested that refreshing Trench Barrel, now that it's been nerfed, is actually a net loss of damage compared to just continuing to fire. If you're trying to maximize damage per shot, or total damage, maybe because you're just trying to conserve ammo, then you should refresh it. But if you're just trying to melt something, then don't refresh. But you should activate Trench Barrel when first starting damage for that damage boost. Ikelos also suffers the energy weapon penalty, doing 5% less of what threat level is capable of doing. That being said, it still puts up 39 to 85,000 DPS. The rapid fires do more damage on a per shot basis after the patch, but that huge RPM nerf is what ultimately reduced their damage compared to before the patch. But hang on a second, we still have some exotics to try out. First, the Chaperone. I was intrigued to try it out after seeing a Reddit post claiming it did more damage than snipers on a per shot basis. The results were impressive, sort of. On a non-crit, the Chaperone is pretty sad, 15,528 damage per shot for a less than stellar 18,116 DPS, well under anything else shown in this video. However, our crits do 57,355 damage without the main perk, because our crit multiplier is 3.7, not 2.2 like all of the others. That gets us 66,914 DPS if we're constantly hitting crits, which is still better than Dust Rock, Retold Tale, Mindbenders. It doesn't beat out Parcel of Stardust when unbuffed though, nor does it beat out Acreus. Speaking of which, the Legend of Acreus. A former heavyweight, one of the best overall guns in the game for quite a while, fell to the wayside for the launch of Forsaken. Bungie resurrected this titan of a weapon with some substantial buffs, rate of fire increased to 55 RPM, and a 50% PvE damage buff about a month ago. As a result, it is back to its former glory. Acreus is different to other shotguns in that it gets 15 pellets per shot, not 12, but the game doesn't show all 15. Acreus also gets a bonus chunk of damage, in this specific example 14,944 damage, when it's fired. This value is sometimes either not shown or difficult to see if you're aiming down sights or very close to a target, and trust me when I say this fact confused the hell out of me when I was doing these tests. The Acreus crit multiplier is still 2.2x. A body shot with Acreus gets us 3,507 damage per pellet, 15 pellets, plus our bonus 14,944 damage, which gives us 67,541 damage on a non-crit. That is 61,913 DPS. That is 21,000 higher than threat level in the same conditions, slightly less when threat level has Trench Barrel for its very brief duration. That is absolutely insane. If we chalk up a crit, that's 115,627 damage for the 15 pellets, plus the extra blast damage, for a total of 130,571 damage, a DPS value of 119,690. That is insanity. Not to mention that you will run out of ammo with threat level quicker than you will with Acreus. Acreus takes about 13 seconds to fire 12 shots, and threat level takes 11 seconds to fire 25 of them. And you're still doing more damage with Acreus. But hold the phone, Datto! What about Lord of Wolves? Well, with an output of 640 RPM, it has a lot of firepower. And with a crit multiplier of 2.81, it has high damage potential. At 4,317 damage per shot, we get 21,585 per burst, for a DPS value of 46,048. That beats threat level by about 5,000 DPS. But when we hit those crits, 12,125 per crit, 60,625 per burst, that is just shy of 130,000 DPS, which is 10,000 more than Legend of Acreus. Legend of Acreus struggles to get those full crit shots, but because Lord of Wolves fires 5 individual bullets, it is actually a bit easier to hit full crit bursts with Lord of Wolves compared to Legend of Acreus, and you can do it from a distance. Now keep in mind that I tested all of this on a raid boss. Things will be slightly different out in other activities against non-raid bosses and targets, but this video should hopefully still give a decent idea as to how shotguns are performing overall. 3 things surprised me during these tests. Number 1 is how underrated Parcel of Stardust is as a weapon. Number 2, how good Acreus really is now. And 3, that Lord of Wolves just topped Acreus when going for crits. Parcel of Stardust is in that good sweet spot of good single shot damage and good sustained damage, and I'll certainly be giving it a little more attention over the next season to see how I like it. I spoke about this in another video, but I'm glad that Bungie decided to do something about full auto. It was an incredibly strong PvE perk with almost no noticeable PvE drawbacks, similar to how Shot Package used to be for PvP. It is still an absolute net gain in DPS though. Full auto increases rate of fire by 10%, which equates to a 10% DPS increase. I'm glad that some other shotguns can potentially see some more attention, but if I were to follow up on these shotgun buffs, I think I'd give a little more single shot damage to stuff like Mindbenders to really make those shotguns feel good for those one and done shots. Anyway, we'll potentially follow this up with another video going over Thunderlord and maybe some other weapons because of its nerfs and see what things are going to look like for Season 6. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating would be appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.